What in the actual fuck happened last week? This week, Remembrance Day. What the hell was with the prayer that wasn't even a prayer? This like mandated government boiled down thing that looked like some idiot in fucking Ottawa wrote it. And then everybody in Canada knows the words to "O Canada," but they put the words up anyway. But they put the in all of us command instead of all thy sons command, despite the fact that every single person in the fucking room is saying in all thy sons command. But you're still trying to bring it around. And then you got these fucking idiots walking around like a bunch of fucking goddamn schmucks. People like this. More Canadians have died from COVID than in World War I and World War II combined. So if you're still wearing a poppy but not a mask, there's so many things to unpack with that. I can't even get into it. Somebody explain to me what the hell is going on, what happened to the Legions, and why we don't just start doing our own Remembrance Day services where we just find like one person in town that can play a bugle. And we'd be like, come on out. We're going to do something. And those guys can do whatever fucking government-enabled thing they want. Not to mention the fucking corporate donation wreath fucking display thing that basically just looks like a commercial break at the fucking Remembrance Day ceremony. What in the actual fuck about all of it?
All I can think of is Don Cherry. You people. State of Canada. Mashup 133, folks. How's everybody doing today? Wow, we're gonna actually see who's tweeting.
We got names showing up this week.
We got names showing today.
Did you do anything to change it, to fix it?
Nope. That's probably just a Facebook thing or a StreamYard thing or both thing. I don't know. We're back on X again too. So hello everyone. Hello. Friday morning. Here we are. How's everybody doing? How's Tuesday doing? Minus the state of Canada.
Dude's a little worked up this week. And so, yeah. And we got a doozy of an episode coming up. How about you, Sean?
Well, I'm dressed up. I got to go officiate a funeral. So if anyone's wondering why I got my hair combed, why I'm looking pretty stylish, all dressed in black, that'd be why. So that's an interesting, I don't know. When I started podcasting, I did not see that coming or this coming. So it's a weird thing that a guy gets asked to do now. So that's what I'm doing.
You're probably, I mentioned this before, but you're probably the go-to person for every single event, every single family event or community event. Okay, well, Sean's going to run it. Sean's going to speak. Sean's going to be the guy.
Well, it's my Uncle Russell. So rest in peace, Uncle Russell. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. It's a weird thing that I did not see get coming, because I don't mind public speaking, obviously. Mm-hmm. But officiating a funeral is a pretty weird experience, and I've had to do it now several times, sadly. And honor to be up there for sure, but also very strange. So we're not going to go there for 133. We got some things to talk about, some sagas that won't end. Before we get to any of that, this value for value idea keeps coming to me too. So I want to talk to the audience. Now, obviously, we're going to take a little bit of time to flesh this out to make sure that people are interested in it. But the idea behind value for value is basically we'd probably put up an e-transfer link so people could e-transfer for the next show coming. And then they could become the producer of the show, the associate producer, et cetera, et cetera. We could read off some of their thoughts. We just allow the audience, they already got lots of control of the show, but we'd allow them to be more a part of it. And the one I want them to be a part of it is a new theme song, because we're moving on from Eminem for obvious reasons. So there's been some reach out, some thoughts around that. What's your thoughts on value for value, Tews?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, Vance has talked about it quite a lot. We need to pick his brain on this. But yeah, even the idea of just, hey, you know what, you watch this show, you really enjoy it, you think it's worthwhile. You can show your support for it by buying us a couple beer or something like that, right?
Well, that's the idea, right? Is for the show to continue on. It doesn't mean that we got to make $5 million on it. Although we wouldn't be opposed.
I could live with $5 million. Yeah.
It might be a way to have a little bit of fun with the audience who tunes in every single day to interact with it. And I know that value for value has become a big thing with podcasters, and it keeps getting suggested for this show specifically because we have such a.
Well, we had a lot of people talking about it at the AGM.
Yes.
So it's like, well, you know what? Maybe we need to seriously look at this. And
yes.
I mean, the show isn't going away. See, that's the
yeah.
trick is that we're doing this regardless. We're going to do it as well as we can regardless. And so it's not beholden to any donations or, you know, any gifts.
No, but that's the thing for value. It's like, if you really enjoy this and you feel compelled, I think I read this stat on the value for value info was like only 4% are going to think what we do or what anyone does is worth their financial obligation. So like, I don't know, it may make $2, but it will give the opportunity for some people to get involved in the show and maybe have a little bit of fun. So what we want you to do is comment or text me or shoot an email, comment on social media, value for value. If you're interested in us going down that road, we want to explore it with you. There's that. Happy Airborne Friday to Jamie Sinclair and the military boys. Happy Airborne Friday, fellas. Tuesday's rant on Remembrance Day. I mean, I don't know. This goes back. We saw a changing of the guard when they let go Don Cherry on Remembrance Day for saying "you people." I mean, this, although it shocks me a touch, doesn't shock me probably nearly enough because I just feel like it's the state of Canada these days.
It is. It's everywhere. Even in something like that, you see it and you're like, what in the fuck is all of this? Okay. So yeah, there's that. I know that we got a fan watching by the name of Keegan. I just want to say hi. Thanks for tuning in. You're probably not old enough to watch this though, so you should just wait a few years.
Zane says, great frosty morning from paradise.
Oh, it was so foggy last night.
If you like what we're doing, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let's get on with the show, shall we, Twos? We're going to start with the Coot 6.5. Twos had a great idea. I'm going to give Twos the accolades here. Probably, you know, he'll get it out of me once a year, folks. The Coot 6.5. We thought, what's the best way to shed a light on this? How about we start talking about the stupidity going on in Canada? And let's start here, okay? A 56-year-old BC man who confessed to documenting the sexual assault of a teenage girl and told the court he didn't need consent to have sex with women has been jailed after a judge rejected his request to have the case tossed over court delays. Prakash Lakari, who shared images of the rape in a group chat and told members that the girl took it like a champ, was convicted of sexual assault, making or publishing child pornography in November 2023. During his 3-day trial, Lakari admitted to the assault and told the court that he never needs to seek the consent of a female to have sexual relations with her. So he got 3 years, and I think
this is a guy who literally said in court,
correct,
that he doesn't need to seek consent. Now, the article goes into it a little bit more deep, but this girl got raped in several different ways.
Correct. We don't need to get into. You just know this is about as brutal as it gets. It's about as clear evidence as it gets. Coots boys 6.5 years. This guy 3, and they're trying to appeal it. You're like, this can't be real. But yet there it is. It's happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, the next time, what do you even say about this that isn't just the darkest, most disturbing thing ever? Like, the next time you're mad at the government, you should just rape a child instead because you'll go to jail for a shorter period?
That's a pretty dark
thought. All right.
Polymarket crash. Okay, okay. Me and Two's been talking about this betting, right? Predicting the U.S. election. Well, Shane Copland, founder and CEO of Polymarket, he had his house stormed by FBI agents, seizing his phone and electronics. His crime, building him a website where people bet on future events.
So Polymarket, for those of you who don't recall, we talked about it during the election live streams. We talked about it in the weeks leading up and how The idea is that basically you just go on there, and if you think something's going to go one way, you put money on it going one way, and if you think it's going the other way, you put money going the other way, and it has come out to be far more accurate than polls. You'll remember the Saskatchewan election, the last few polls were off by like 11%. And this seems to be the way of the future, in terms of, having the people are stupid as individuals, and they also tend to be stupid as groups, but they tend to put their money in smart places sometimes. And this is a case of that coming to actual market viability. And so anyway, this guy who started this whole thing gets his house raided. I don't know, maybe there'll actually be something legitimate that we hear about later on, but it looks like it was just sour grapes over the fact that he built something that predicted that Trump was going to win. Interesting thing, though, is if you go there and you look up Canadian, the current Canadian polls on here, Trudeau out in 2024, question mark. November 6th, it spiked to 28%, 28 cents, basically 28%. But now it's at 2.4 cents. And I don't think Trudeau is going to be out at all. I think that's a long shot at best. And it seems as though everybody else kind of is in agreement on that.
The invisible strike. Yes. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has given notice that they will be going on strike on November 15th. I think they said November 3rd last time. Could be wrong on my dates.
They went on strike this morning.
They did, eh? Canada Post has experienced... They did. Okay. Well, they're on strike. Canada Post has experienced $3 billion in losses since 2018, but has still offered the union 11.5% wage increases over the next 4 years. But the union wants 23% over the next 4 and doesn't like the Crown Corporation's plan to expand into evenings and weekend parcel deliveries.
Okay. This business is failing. We need to do whatever the fuck we can to try and keep it above board. Okay, so if you guys are going to stay on, we got to start thinking outside the box a little bit. Nope, not interested. Okay, but like we're hemorrhaging money, right? Yes. Okay, so we can't afford this, but we'll give you a 12% raise. That's half of what we want. Okay, but you guys suck at your job. Yeah, but we need guarantees. We need to enshrine our defined benefit pension. We need to make a shit ton more money. And there's nothing there. Like, honestly, the first rule going on a strike is that before you go on a strike, you have to make sure that people are going to be aware of the difference after you go on strike. If you go to the post office today, are you going to be able to tell that nobody's working there? If you go check your mailbox, that nothing ever shows up in anyway, and nothing continues to show up while they're on strike, how are you going to know that they're on strike? Like, what? Are they so mad about this new collective agreement that they went on strike in 1986? This is just absolutely ludicrous. The best thing that anybody on the other side of the table from this could do right now is say, you guys are the fucking worst. I don't care if you go on strike because no one's going to notice. I'm leaving. Give me a call when you guys start going hungry.
Worst heist ever. Well, if you're new to the show, me and Two's like talking about heists. Well, here you go. Frontline officers in BC got the mozzarella, but didn't get their man in a recent cheese heist at a Whole Foods in North Vancouver. RCMP say they were on patrol September 29th when they found a cart full of cheese outside the grocery store near East 13th Street and Lonsdale Avenue. It was 4 a.m. and the store was closed, so police say they started to investigate and identified a suspect who fled on foot, leaving the cheese behind. The total value of the cheese was assessed at $12,800, but sadly the cheese was no longer to be sold after it had left the fridge. They had in a written statement.
Yeah, this is a goddamn dairy cartel again. Those guys really cheese me off. Okay, but so I get all excited because I see this thing about BC police foil $12,000 800 cheese heist. I'm like, a fucking cheese heist? in Canada. This is awesome. This is going to be like the maple syrup heist all over again. And you open up the story, and at 4 a.m, there's a guy pushing a shopping cart full of cheese down the road in a suspicious area. And so the cops drive by, and then they stop, and they go to be like, hey, motherfucker, what's going on? And he takes off and runs. And then it turns out that he had stolen it from a grocery store. That's the extent of it. It technically wasn't even a heist. For a heist to really happen, you've got to have somebody there while it happens. You got to have that fall guy, that person that you dupe, where you trick him into looking one way, and then he does something predictable that allows you to carry out the rest of the heist. It's not even a heist. If you just sneak in when nobody's there, it's just a fucking theft. I was so disappointed when I read this article, and this is why we need to defund the media.
This is why we need a better class of criminal? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the journalists.
Oh, man, the other Randy. Man, this story will not end, which I kind of love, but I'm kind of like, this guy.
How far does this have to go?
I don't know. Okay. For years, the Liberal Party of Canada touted Employment Minister Randy Beausoleil as an Indigenous MP. Now, you may recall we've been talking about this other Randy for some time, right? Like, this goes back at least, 6 months, too? Like, It just seems like it won't end.
To be clear, this isn't us beating a dead horse.
No, this is new
stuff keeps coming up all the fucking time.
Okay. So they've been touting him as an Indigenous MP and part of the largest number of Indigenous MPs ever elected in the Canadian government, despite the fact Beausoleil now says he has never claimed Indigenous status.
And yet, here we go.
Between 2000, so Tu's going to show it up. Okay, so here's.
So for those of you listening along, here is this Liberal Instagram post from 2016 that has Indigenous Liberal Caucus, and it's got Jody Wilson-Raybould on it, and a bunch of other people, and you'll see Randy Bissonalt on there. So this is literally an Instagram post of them claiming Indigenous status.
You just can't make this up. Like, are they that dumb? They're that dumb. We have had our eyes off this problem for so long. They're that dumb, twos.
Yep. Okay. So there's that. There is the 200 and some kilos of cocaine that Steven Anderson, his former business partner, has some ties with. Then also, it just came out this week that there's another company suing their organization, which still owes like $6 million in court costs, by the way. And this corporation, or this other corporation, is suing them because they sent them a $250,000 deposit for stuff that never arrived, and they refused to give the money back.
Forgive me, twos. He's still an acting MP, correct?
He's an acting fucking minister, Sean.
I just wanted to clarify that. This moron who has basically...
Is he a moron or is he a fucking genius?
Well, that's a good question.
He built this entire career on being Indigenous. None of it's fucking true. He gets government grants because of it. He gets a cabinet position because of it. And then when everything starts to fall down around in this house of cards, right, arson just so happens to happen to his warehouse.
Nothing to see here.
Business shuts down. He surrenders his shares. His business partner gets left holding the fucking, holding the plate on this whole fucking thing, thrown under the bus. Classic liberal move, by the way. Thrown under the bus, and he's left being like, I'm sorry, I just didn't really know who I was getting involved with, right? Which begs the question, if you're a poor judge of character regarding who you do business with, doesn't that say something about our current fucking prime minister? So anyway, I can't wait to tune in next week when we find out that he's got another company that's ran by a Mexican amputee
cartel.
Randy. Yes. And then that Randy actually the job of his... I'm
waiting to see that he actually isn't even Canadian.
Wait. We got the other part of it. The other part of the other Randy thing is that new text messages have emerged, and the conflict of interest commissioner is reopening the investigation.
Von Finkelstein.
Von Finkelstein is back on the case.
Can't
This
wait
is
to get a
all
little
just
more
the stuff that's
exposure.
happened in the last week with
he
this
just needs a little more
motherfucker.
exposure, Tooz. That's what he needs. A little more exposure. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. This is what you're here for, folks. Who is the other Randy? Revenue Canada continues to defy meager expectations. The Canadian Revenue Agency is on a witch hunt to find whistleblowers who have spoken to media and exposed how it has been reportedly duped into paying out millions of bogus refunds to scammers, according to sources. The consensus is that management is nervous, one source said. Any immediate contacts are saying, don't talk to them at all. Don't talk to journalists. They think they're very much trying to control the narrative. According to multiple sources, the CRA senior leadership is anxious, looking for ways to silence employees and limit media coverage. Of course, this is 2 weeks ago after CBC reported that tens of thousands of CRA taxpayer accounts were hacked. Numbers far larger than what the agency had previously reported to Parliament. CBC Radio and Radio Canada had also reported the agency wrongly authorized the release of $40 million in bogus refunds to a single bank account without verifying what
one bank account
documents.
Okay, so look, if anybody here is from the CRA, if anybody from the CRA is listening right now, if you get an email from a Nigerian prince, the key thing to keep in mind in that email is the Nigerian part, which means that he probably hasn't paid millions of dollars in taxes to Revenue Canada. Okay? This isn't rocket Scientology, boys. And the fact that they're just like, well, you know what? We this got leaked, that we accidentally sent tens of millions of dollars to people who didn't deserve it, that totally tricked us. We need to take this seriously. We need immediate action. Okay, what's the best thing we can do to solve this problem? Well, let's find the whistleblower.
Trudeau takes too many trips, but they're not long enough. Peter Green, the wealthy British businessman who became friends with the former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau Sr. in the 70s, died this week at age 89. And the PMO's daily itinerary released Tuesday evening announced that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau would travel to the North Atlantic island to deliver Green's eulogy on Wednesday, stressing it would only be a one-day trip, and he would return to the capital the same day. According to published RCAF documents, costs $12,000 per flight hour to operate, burning 5,800 liters of fuel per hour if you care.
Now, keep in mind that climate change is the most existential threat currently facing humanity, and that Canada needs to be a world example in all things climate change. We need to do everything we can.
Preach.
But we are going to burn, 55,000 liters of aviation fuel for an afternoon trip.
Correct.
A 3-hour tour. This is Gilligan's Island.
Don't look at the details, Tooz. Don't look at the details.
Okay, not only that, we as taxpayers have to pay for that fuel. And you know what else we have to pay for that fuel? The carbon tax.
India's most wanted. One of India's most wanted terrorists has been arrested and charged in connection with a recent alleged shooting in where? Ontario. Arshdeep Singh Gill is known on the streets of India by alias Arsh Dalla, a name that in recent years has become synonymous with violence in India. Dalla has lived in Canada for several years. Of course he has. According to multiple media reports in India, he's also known as associate of Hardeep Najir, a Sikh separatist activist who is involved in the Palestinian movement, which calls for an independent Sikh state.
Okay, here's something before we get into this being exactly on brand for Canada and the Liberals. There's all this Khalistani Sikh separation thing. Now, as somebody who lives in Western Canada, I'm a firm believer in that if somebody wants to separate from whatever country or overarching whatever else, they should be more than welcome to.
Okay.
But it's always, they're these extremists and it's going and everything's always crazy with them. And I would be really interested in having a conversation or even hearing a conversation with one of these Sikh Khalistani separatists and just, where are you guys coming from? Why do you guys keep shooting people? What would make you happy? And why isn't the Indian, just help me understand.
You're trying to tell me that I
separatists.
need to go find a Palestinian separatist and bring him on the podcast? Is that what you're saying?
That would be an awesome episode, because I hear the word separatist and I think, okay, all right, I like where this guy's going. And then they're like, oh yeah, we go around
shooting
shooting
plane
people and bombing,
shoot people,
and you're like, okay, well, you're starting to lose me here, but just help me understand where you're starting from anyway. What's the bedrock of this discussion that we want to have? Because I legitimately would like to know more about it, right? Because Northern California wants to separate because Los Angeles and San Francisco have lost their damn minds. You've got
but do we have Northern California protesters in the streets of Ontario?
No, we don't. We don't.
No, we don't.
We've got
have Alberta separatists
in the
Indian
Civil
streets
War
of
is
New York.
taking place in Ontario right now, which is totally fucked. But the thing about it is you just kind of want to understand where they're coming from.
Have you seen
where the Catalan or the Castellano separatists, the guys in Honduras that want to separate, everything they say makes sense, and they get nowhere because they just sit around making reasonable arguments. Whereas these guys, and I'm not condoning it, to be absolutely clear, but it's a very unique approach in terms of separatism in the world right now.
Have you seen some of the reporters try and talk to some of these people? And like they're yelling at them, and you're just like, your version of separatist twos is different from what I've been seeing happen with this movement.
Okay, so let me understand this more. That's where I want to go with this.
Fair enough, but
I'm not saying I really want to hear more about this whole shooting people and bombing things in the name of separation. I keep hearing this Khalistani separatist, and nobody's explained it to me at all ever. And I don't know, maybe I'm just curious to a fault.
Let's look at other things going on in Canada, shall we?
All right.
Demand for crickets met with crickets. You don't say. Had to be a rocket scientist to see that one coming. Aspire Food Group, which cut the ribbon last year on 150,000 square foot edible
foot?
Yes, edible cricket factory in London, Ontario has just
really
laid
put
off,
your foot in your mouth on that one.
Has laid off 2/3 of its workforce and significantly cut back shifts, saying they need to make some improvements to its manufacturing system. Speaking to trade publication Ag Funder News, Aspire CEO David Rosenberg said the company will be running the production line 4 times a week instead of 2 shifts every day. We're 150 people down
to 4.
Yeah, 150 people down to 50, and we plan on hiring back up in July. Sure you do. Okay. And,
yeah, that's what I would have said.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of the employees saying we got fired without severance. So there's that. And
it's shocking. People don't want to eat crickets. It literally says in the article, the place that's their biggest customer is animal foods.
South Korean animal foods.
Think about this. This is
that's their biggest customer. And here's the thing. If the majority of what you're sending goes to South Korea, and you're in a country as big as this one, why would you not try and build it a little bit closer to the West Coast instead of being all the way in fucking Ontario, right? This is a decided lack of market awareness. These guys are university grads from McGill who got started with this, like, George Soros grant, and they got going with this, and they thought this was a wonderful idea. And yeah, you pitch it, and yeah, as far as like the you will eat the bugs people go, they're like, that's exactly it. We've been saying they'll eat the bugs. They're making the bugs. Let's give them the money. Okay. But what you need is market awareness. You need to know what your target market is, what they like about the product, what they don't like about it. So you go to your target market, which is humans, and you say, okay, well, what do you like about this product? And they say, okay, well, it's got protein in it. Okay. Well, what don't you like about it? It's fucking bugs.
So if you're wanting to get caught up on the state of Canada, okay, I'm just gonna scroll back through. We got a guy.
We gave them fucks $9 million.
We got a guy who raped a girl, is only getting 3 years, and he's proud of it, and he's showboating it. We got Polymarket, which we've been talking about, but as being brilliant, getting raided by the FBI because you can't do that. You got a Canadian postal striker. They're going on strike because they want more money, but they're a failing business. You got the worst heist in Canadian history. We can't even get heist right in Canada. You got Randy doing Randy things. You got the CRA going after whistleblowers instead of fixing the problem. You got the PMO jet setting on trips, not addressing any problem in Canada. You got the most wanted from India playing in Canada because they're welcome here. We don't care. And
where did he get a gun, by the way? Where did he get
we are the WEF, are we not? Like at this point, just like everything that could possibly be going wrong in the world is happening right now in Canada. It's insane. And we haven't even got to the last half of today.
We haven't even got to the goofy news yet. This is the serious news. This is
the serious stuff. Oh my God, I just can't buzz myself fast enough. All right. It's got to look up from here. Can it? Wait a second. Let's get to the cartel. Cartel moves into more dangerous area. Boy, oh boy. Here, I'm just going to pull up the tweet. I'm just going to read it, okay? This is from the CCFR. BCRCMP.
Play it. Just play the video in the background while you're talking
you play the video because I can't hear the dang.
You play the video. No,
you play the video.
You play it. Just talk about it.
Twos is going to play the video.
God damn it. Okay.
BCMP arrested 3 people after a heavily fortified multi-million-dollar home was found to be operating as a Mexican drug cartel. Headquarters in Surrey. Police seized 23 illicit guns, ammo, drugs, and passports, but all suspects were released without charges. No worries there, folks.
The headquarters.
No worries there. Hey?
Arrested without charges. I mean, what could you possibly charge them with?
Don't know.
You're in a fucking Scarface compound. Say hello to my little friend with razor wire and cameras everywhere. They got more guns than a redneck. They've got body armor, police-issued body armor, Mexican passports, released with no charges.
I don't know what to say anymore, right? Like, I mean, episode 133. And I feel like at one point there was like, oh, yeah, maybe that's kind of reasonable. I think at one time I argued with Twos on some things.
Now several times where you're like, aren't you being a little bit hyperbolic about this?
Yeah, not
this
anymore.
Kind of stuff can't happen every week. This has to be a one-off. This is crazy.
Yes, right. And it just keeps happening. And we can't get a new government in fast. Folks, at this pace, we probably won't have an election because of the cartels and on and on and on this goes.
Okay,
like,
but enough about the milk. You know, the funny thing is, I've got a tiny little, just hear me out on this.
I want to get to some serious news.
Okay, when Sean and I first started this, there was this kind of pushback a little bit where Sean was like, dude, this is such a weird article. Why are we talking about this? It's this one-off, or like, oh, it's not that bad or whatever else. And then gradually you see him in this gradual decline until he shows up in a black dress shirt. Like he's ready to he's just gone.
Totally, like I'm going to start smacking a pack of Marlboros. Cause it's like,
you're going to be sitting here smoking and then pretty soon you're going to say there is no spoon. And so if you have any friends who are just like, well, I don't think Canada's really that bad.
Just
why don't you do a podcast with me for like 100 episodes?
We'll convert you.
Yeah, absolutely.
A swift motorcade. I'm so happy. Okay, so we just did all the obvious, awful stuff going on in Canada. So what should we do? Let's talk about Taylor Swift, shall we? They're shutting down highways. They got giant police escorts for her, and they got friendship bracelets because
that's friendship bracelets on horses.
Correct. Friendship bracelets on horses. Okay.
Stompy never looked so good. I wonder if that's the same horse. Like you look at that and you're like, does the horse feel weird not only having that big fake friendship bracelet around its neck, but also possibly feeling strange because it's hard for him to walk when it's not over top of a senior citizen with a fucking walker.
Here
they literally shut down a highway for the motorcade. They did all this crazy, ridiculous stuff. Toronto, which is just universally known for having the shittiest traffic congestion. They're like, well, what if we just shut down the whole thing, had a huge motorcade for a fucking concert? Like, where's the carbon footprint on that?
Yeah, and here's another one. I mean,
this is them escorting Taylor Swift to a concert. Just have her fucking show up at the tour bus. What the fuck is wrong with you people?
I mean, it's just, we used to say, we've been saying a long time, NDP is not a serious party. Canada is not a serious country right now.
No, it isn't.
And I know we've been saying that off and on for a bit, but the headlines to this point are almost a bit insane. Well, they are insane, except this has just become the standard of Canada. All right. Danielle Smith totally redeems herself. Two's right that out. Was that a Sean? Woo.
Oh, Two's wrote that. So right off the bat, I kind of felt bad because you have a lot of things going on when you're putting the mashup together. And one of the things I should have done was had Danielle Smith, I don't know, redeems herself of the week last year with the whole Aimco thing. I felt way better about that than I really had a chance to give credit to. The whole Aimco thing, I get the fact that it was Nate Horner that did it, but everything falls underneath Danielle Smith. And I thought that was awesome. And I didn't give it as much credit as I should have. And none of you called me on it, which I'm disappointed in. But now the former president or CEO of Aimco released this huge letter that he wrote to Nate Horner saying that, it's completely unfair that you've mischaracterized this.
Correct.
Because while we sent a shit ton of money to third parties to manage the money and our own internal expenses went through the fucking roof, we also made you a lot of money. So what? I could literally, if you gave me like a month prep, I could take over that whole portfolio and I could get just as good returns as you do. I fucking guarantee you. And it wouldn't cost $222.1 million.
Danielle Smith went into government and just started appointing people like the way Donald Trump is doing right now. It's just like, and
how good are those
the head of this? And Marty up north is going to be the head of that. And this is going to happen over here.
Well, I mean, we're going to get to that, but I would love to be the head of Doge in Canada. But you look at all these appointments like Tulsi
Doge in Alberta.
Oh my God. I asked Mrs. Twos because she's got dark hair. I was like, you think you could maybe just do like a gray streak in the front?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, she got a smile, but she was like, for fuck's sakes.
Yes. Okay.
But no, there is actually no. There's a couple other things. There's this
okay. Whoa. There's a curriculum framework that I think that's important to bring up.
Yes.
It calls on teachers to promote Alberta's oil and gas industry to school children.
That should almost be the happy news.
Yes. The document was published online in April and includes a directive from Minister of Education, Dimitrios Nikolaidis, to teach K-12 students about Alberta's reputation as the most ethical producer of oil in the world and the importance of natural resources in enabling and sustaining Alberta's society and Alberta's quality of life. We're quick to point out when they get things wrong. This article is trying to slander it, which was, I'm like, but I think that's really kudos to him. Hat tip to the government.
Well, we're quick. Sean, I like to point out whenever they do things I like too. It's just that in the past little while, they've been doing a lot of things that I don't. Aimco, huge win. This, huge win. Because this is an honest conversation. That's it. And they're not saying, go in and do a bunch of made-up propaganda about how Alberta oil is awesome and it secretly sucks. Alberta oil
is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct.
And then even, she did this news article this press conference a couple weeks ago, and she's talking about Stephen Gay Balls and how and she was right on the cusp. Her point was that what he's doing is hurting Albertans. And yes, that's true. But you got to frame the article in a way that's going to hit him where it hurts. And you just say, look, is he stupid or idealistic or what is his problem? Because we're trying to get Alberta natural gas to as many places in the world as possible, which is going to reduce our carbon footprint globally. They love saying there's no planet B whenever they see environmental things they don't like, but they seem to forget it whenever we do good environmental things. And if she'd have pushed that point home, rather than spending the majority of it focusing on how it was going to hurt Albertans, it really, because it's meeting them on their own level and turning their own arguments against them, and that would have been way more effective. So she was pretty close on that one. Okay.
Zane says, you boys created the show, and then the Simpsons prophecy loops has taken root to drive the show.
Yeah. You ever go down that rabbit hole of looking at all the Simpsons stuff that came true?
Yes.
There's quite a lot. All right, now we have my favorite.
Are you going to do goofy news?
My favorite part of the show.
Goofy news, folks. Okay, let's start. I'm just going to rapid fire this. Two's going to try and slow me down, but oh well. Alexandria.
Before you get into this, So here's a bunch of the Oilers goofing off like a bunch of rejects. Some second period goal, and they make some big deal out of it. The Oilers are celebrating a second period goal in November like they won the Stanley Cup. This is so embarrassing. What a bunch of goofs. Okay, please continue. Please continue with your other thing.
So what Tooze is talking about?
No, just go on to the next thing. We got a big show. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving.
McDavid hits 1,000 points, fourth fastest in history, only behind Gretzky, Lemieux, Bossy. That's a pretty cool little stat. Then you got here's Alexandria Cortez removed her pronouns from her bio.
Okay? Nature is healing,
right? You got who should lead the Liberals? None of the above. The poll spots.
Yes. So there was a poll that came out.
Yes.
Poll came out, said who should lead the Liberals. 18% Mark Carney, 11% Trudeau and Freeland, 4% Christy Clark, former BC Liberal Premier. Francois Philippe Champagne. A name like Champagne is just classic Liberal, by the way. 3% for Melanie Joly, 3% Anita Anand, 2% Dominic LeBlanc. I don't know why they put them out of order. It goes back up to 3% for Sean Fraser. And here's the thing. They go 2% for other and 26% for none of the above. So technically, other is none of the above. Canadian polls are garbage.
Correct.
This should say 28% want none of them.
The Liberals are not a serious party at this point. Mississauga upholds a ban on street sports, including hockey and basketball. Yes, you heard that right. Mississauga City Council has voted to keep its residential street sports ban in place, meaning hockey and basketball, anything on the road will remain out of bounds. You're just like, how the heck is that possible? You got Cameron Bynum and his NFL celebration. Bring that video up too, as I can see you got it sitting there. This is fantastic. Watch this, folks.
For those of you listening and not watching, his touchdown celebration, he reenacted the Australian breakdance woman's routine. And that was his, like, complete with the T-Rex at the end and everything. It was goddamn beautiful.
Tonight, you got here, I'll pull it up. Where are you at? There it is. Okay, pull this up. You got Mike Tyson and Jake Paul going at it tonight.
Play that clip here real quick.
So you got don't need to hear it.
So there's a slap from Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is standing there in the tightest tighties you've ever seen.
58. And he looks pretty good for 58.
He does. Here's how impressive this whole situation was, Sean. That I watched that clip like 8 times. And I didn't even realize that these women were standing in the background.
Yeah. This shit, like, I don't, like, am I going to tune into it? Like, he's 58 going against a 27-year-old. Jake Paul's in the prime of his life. Where do you put your money on? Do you put it on Mike Tyson, one of the greatest ever, or on Jake Paul? Are they like full on trying to like? Or do they got the headgear and all the BS?
I imagine it's a full on. I mean,
I don't know. Every
Jake
time
Paul might want to try and tape up his ears a little bit, but
Jake Paul to me has gone full on crazy. Like he's whatever. I mean,
he's crazy, but not like the crazy that you're scared of getting into the ring with. I mean, I would be scared to get in the ring with him, but not like,
I'm rooting for Mike Tyson is what I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely. Which is a funny thing to say. Like, imagine saying that 20 years ago. Before he did Hangover, you were going to say, Mike Tyson's going to do a comeback in 20 years, and everyone is going to be hoping he wins. You'd be like, what the? Yeah. And Justin Trudeau is going to be prime minister too, buddy. Sure, whatever. Here's one I saw. So this is Michael DeAdder, who is a former editorial cartoonist with this ridiculous left-wing bias. And so he put this out after the U.S. election, and it's a political cartoon of the Statue of Liberty puking into a toilet. Now, I would just like to point out that the biological act of puking is when your body senses that you've taken in something that is bad for it, and it takes actions to expel it from your body so that it doesn't hurt you further.
Correct.
And so he very inadvertently gave a very accurate commentation on the Republican Party. Commentation. Why did I say commentation?
Next we have Disney star here. Pull this up. Is facing backlash over Disney faces backlash over Snow White star Rachel Ziegler's Trump comments, unhinged and a liability. She quoted after the election, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in." And she went on to delete that story. She also said, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace."
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly the kind of thing you want to do when 54% of the people who would be going to your movie presumably in the next few months, they're going to be like, "Oh, fuck that bitch." At least they'll have an out when the movie absolutely sucks and nobody watches it. But she's basically ruined her whole career in Hollywood. You'll notice that after the election, almost every single celebrity just shut the fuck up. And they're like, "Okay, well, you know what? We tried. We're gonna bail on this." Here's another one. Zelensky. Look at this photo. For those of you watching along at home, here's Zelensky looking all serious in front of a laptop with a bunch of papers in front of him and a giant cup full of pens and pencils, as if you need that many fucking pens and like, who uses more than one pencil for anything? Okay. But the focal point is that when you look at this laptop, it is very obviously photoshopped with the Ukraine logo on the back, which totally reminded me of another guy who put an Apple sticker over the back of his HP laptop, and that is Justin Trudeau. So, I mean, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. This one here, Global News says many of the people landing top jobs in Donald Trump's second administration have been critical of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and security at Canada's border. No shit, Sherlock. The only people on the fucking planet you're going to find that aren't critical of Justin Trudeau and his security at the northern border, or lack thereof, live in Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. So how is this news? It'd be like Trump appointed people, because that's basically it. Almost every single person in the world has the exact same thought on Trudeau at this point. Why is this news? All right, what do we got? There was a few other ones here. Oh, yes. But I think that's the end of the goofy news.
That's the end of the goofy news. Yes. Zane said Jake walked up to that like a monkey and then stepped on Iron Mike's foot as he rose. So
yes, so that's true. We didn't touch on that. But the reason why, presumably why Tyson slapped him in that standoff there, was because because Ryan stepped on his foot, and you can see it in a different angle, like in the seconds before that happened.
There you go. Goofy news. There's a lot there today.
Two's commentation sounds like you were reading my posts. Fair enough. Okay, but moving along.
The real reason why people are leaving Twitter. Well, okay. Let's start here. This is Rocky Petroli. She's an NDP from Edmonton. She says you can find my posts. It's become increasingly unsafe and toxic. Okay, sure. Then you got Don Lemon. He's leaving Twitter. Okay. And then you got the Guardian's leading Twitter. And then the person put, "The Guardian, this you?" And it says, "Should it really be a crime to look at child pornography? Rod Little." And you're like,
yeah, Rod Little has a little rod.
See you later, buddy. See you later.
But yeah, these are the people leaving Twitter. And then there was one comment that
here, a reminder that folks who are leaving Twitter are doing so not because they were not permitted to express their opinion, because you are permitted to express yours.
Absolutely. Yeah, so keep that in mind next time somebody hissy fits on their way out of Twitter. It's because they're tired of getting ratioed and community noted.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens when they say bullshit.
Feds building walls, not houses. The federal government is providing more than $574 million in financing to help build 950 rental homes in Vancouver. Anyone doing math, that's $604,000 per rental home.
Yep.
Just
yes,
throwing that out
for
there.
a fucking rental.
Correct.
And that's how much they're loaning. So
Correct.
Now the Liberal government is in the business of loaning to landlords and landlord companies, presumably, because who the fuck is going to borrow this as a person, right? I don't think I could secure a $574 million loan from anybody, even one as stupid as Justin Trudeau. And so there's that. But then you've also got this pissing match going on back and forth, where the Conservatives are saying this is stupid and a waste of money, and the Liberals are saying, well, why are you getting in the way of your constituents getting access to this? And so he uses Forest Lawn as this is Ryan Turnbull. He uses Forest Lawn as an example. Over 35,000. That's the number of homes this MP is fighting against building in the city of Calgary. I wonder how constituents who are looking to buy a house in Calgary Forest Lawn feel about this. Now, here's the thing about Forest Lawn. Here's a picture of it. This red boundary that is completely filled with houses, that has houses and parks on literally all sides of it that go on for fucking miles in every direction. That's not new house construction. Those are already houses that got built a long fucking time ago, like 60 years ago. So you're out of your league, Ryan Turnbull. If you cite an example where some house construction is actually happening and talk about that place instead of being a goddamn idiot. So anyways, that's Ryan Turnbull. And then the other thing, by the way, is that they're going to do this thing, the same thing they did when they caught hell for the 2 billion trees. So they promised they were going to plant 2 billion trees in a country that has like 20 billion trees already. They said they were going to plant 2 billion trees. And literally anytime a tree gets planted in Canada, they take credit for it. They're like, oh yeah, that's because of our program. That's because of our election promise. Any house that gets built since they promised this program, whether it was 90% done by the time it started getting rolled out, was completely ineligible for funding. No matter what, any house that gets built during the window that this program is operational, they're going to take credit for it. And they're going to say that house got built because we put our fingers on the scale, which is bullshit.
I don't know if you knew, but COP is happening again. COP 29. Yeah. Stephen Ebel. He says Project Gaia is supporting the world's most vulnerable from the climate change. Tops the agenda at COP 29. Very exciting, launching a $2 billion Canada-led climate finance platform.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, it is in Azerbaijan this year. So if you look up Ottawa to Azerbaijan, oh, I don't know. What's a good Baku, maybe? Baku. Let's go Baku. All right. So if we go to Baku, Azerbaijan, it's a 16-hour flight. I don't even know how many fucking miles it is. It doesn't say, but it's all of them. Like you're basically going just short of Turkmenistan. Kyrgyzstan's a little bit further, but they're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if we should go on someplace that borders China. You literally almost flew to China. It's right on the cusp where if it just moves over a tiny bit, you're just as fast going around the other side of the fucking planet. And this is where they're having the Save the Climate conference. And we're flying how many fucking guys from Canada this year? We don't even know yet, but we're leading it off with $2 billion. You know what could save the fucking climate, Sean? A fucking Zoom subscription. They could get StreamYard. We'll donate it. We'll give them the login credentials for us, and they can just use the Mashup banner anytime they want to talk to somebody in Azerbaijan.
I'm going to say, screw that, too. We're going to charge them about $20 million, and we'll solve their climate issue of plane travel.
Yeah. So anyways,
like $100 in a subscription. And then they can go do Freedom of Information Act and realize we made, anyways, I'm not going to give it to the government for free.
So tune in next week. Tune in next week because there's going to be updates with all kinds of stupid shit that they're doing.
When Twos and Sean figure out another way for the government to save a boatload of money and save the planet. The Trans Sports Play of the Week. Advocates are coming to the defense of a trans athlete who plays basketball for Vancouver Island University. Harriet McKenzie was playing in a 2-day weekend basketball tournament, and the Vancouver Island University Mariners were playing against Columbia Bible College when in the third quarter, Mackenzie was grabbed by an opposing player and thrown to the ground. Mackenzie posted a video on Instagram after the incident telling the story of what happened. She said the Columbia Bible College head coach had cornered one of the Vancouver Island University athletic staff after the game and said Mackenzie should not be allowed to play in the game. Sadly, situations like this are nothing new to me, Mackenzie said in the video.
Just pause and just put some emphasis on this next paragraph.
Throughout my entire playing career, I've been outed and attacked by everyone from players to coaches to fans. They try to invalidate my achievements from Player of the Year to National MVP, claiming she only won that because she's trans. Many attribute my success not to hard work and dedication, but to the fact I'm a trans woman.
Yeah, you actually did get it because you were trans. If you actually cared about competing on an even playing field, you would compete with the men, but you're a loser, and so you join a league with an easy win rather than pushing yourself as an athlete.
Have you seen what she looks like, Tews? Have you pulled up a picture of this lady?
I'm guessing she has balls.
Actually, I think it'd be here.
Is she hot? Are we going to go into Blair White territory?
You haven't seen the video of this?
Like, is it going to be like the first time you saw a picture of Blair White where you're like, I wonder if I could still get away with saying I didn't know?
I'll pull it up if I can. Come on, for the love of Pete here, folks. There, this will do the best.
Okay, bring it up.
Right there.
I don't know. That's a pretty square jaw.
100%. Listen. So, okay, this girl, this guy, whatever, transitioned at kindergarten. Okay, this is the whole. So to me, the anger shouldn't be directed to this person. It's the grown-ups in the room. We have a serious issue in Canada, and it's starting to boil over. So here's a boy turned girl at kindergarten who is destroying
who
female
even
sports.
Thought that could have been like, did you know a single person growing up who even thought that could have been a possibility?
But think about it. That's we're a generation removed from this, right? We're too old to even remember that. This is, she'd roughly be 9 years ago, right? At kindergarten, she'd be, it'd be 12 years ago, right? In kindergarten, she would have been 5. So how old is she right now? I don't know. Late teens, early 20s.
No.
How
many 5-year-olds have you ever known who independently came up with
I live in rural Canada.
In their
Nobody
independently came up with the idea in their head. You know what? Maybe
this is what I'm
chop
saying.
My dick off.
This is an adult problem, and we've created this mess, and it is an absolute mess.
Yeah,
and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. You think this is a one-off? This isn't a one-off. We're going to start to see more of this. And it's I don't know. This isn't the grown man walking around with big giant prosthetics teaching kids. This is something
which was hilarious.
Different. It was, but this is something different.
Yeah. Think of all the shots she could have blocked with those fucking mammers. Right? Okay. You know the interesting thing, just quick side note. Sure. Everybody in the I like this perspective about the adults. You don't really see a lot of conversations about the parents and what they think and whether, because it's pretty well established that almost every single transgender person ends up regretting the medical experimentation that they had done to them, which stunted them in every possible fucking way for the rest of their lives. But I haven't really seen anybody doing any sort of a follow-up on a large scale with parents where they say, well, how do you feel about the fact that you pushed your kid to cut their breasts off? How do you feel about the fact that you sterilized them? And that not only will you never have grandkids, but your child, whom you purport to love, will never know what it's like to birth a child and have a family of her own. And whether that haunts them.
Yeah, I don't know. I just see this like what, like when I first got sent this, I was expecting, who's the swimmer? Why can't I think of that Riley Gaines always talks about?
Yeah, Leah
Thomas.
Yeah.
And when you see video, you're like, oh, that's a dude, right? And don't get me wrong, when you see this, you're like, oh, the jaw's wide and everything else. But the article and her talking about it is from kindergarten. I'm like, this is only going to get worse. Like in the coming years, this is only going to get worse. And adults have allowed this to persist.
Yep.
Society's allowed this to persist. Co-vindication. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said Thursday he is nominating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, putting him in charge of a massive agency that oversees everything from drug, vaccine, and food safety to medical research and the social safety net programs, Medicare and Medicaid. For far too long, Americans have been crushed. This is Donald Trump now. Have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. Trump said in a post on his Truth Social site announcing the appointment, Kennedy said would make America great and healthy again.
I like the fact that they've evolved from the last election's slogan.
Yeah. And then Kennedy had.
So he gets a bunch of backlash because he's RFK Jr. and he's a conspiracy theorist. He says crazy things like he believes that the coronavirus came from the coronavirus lab. The coronavirus that originated in Wuhan came from the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. He says you can look up. There are articles in the past couple days that have talked about this crazy conspiracist and how he's still purporting the lab leak theory.
He says right at the end.
Want to show this.
Oh, you're going to show it. Okay.
Yeah.
Are zero liability vaccines. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I think we need to be honest and we need to have good science. I spent 30 years trying to get mercury out of the fish in this country, and nobody ever called me anti-fish. Many years.
Yeah, that was.
I spent 30 years trying to get mercury out of the fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. Isn't that right there? Yep. I mean, this might as the mashup effect might as well be happy. This is okay. Mashup effect. Starlink. Okay, the Ford government has signed a deal with roughly. I had to read this. I'm like, is this Canada? Canada's doing this.
And it's Doug Ford of all the shitty politicians.
Right. The Ford government has signed a deal worth roughly $100 million with Elon Musk's Starlink company to provide high-speed internet to parts of northern and rural Ontario. On Thursday, the province announced Starlink had won a competitive bidding process to run satellite-based internet program for roughly 15,000 households and businesses beginning in June 2025. And I just want to put a side note. I was sitting at the supper table 2-3 nights ago. And I looked out the window. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I came out. I filmed it. I put it on Twitter because I had no idea. I'd never seen it before. And I got told by Jennifer L. and a few others on Twitter that it was the Starlink satellites going up into the air. And I'd never seen anything like it before. I was like,
you were seeing them being launched all the way from Lloyd?
Well, so I guess they have different spots where they send these, maybe satellites isn't the right Starlink. I don't know what they are. Anyways, they're going up in like a line. And I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, is this aliens or what is this? And so I filmed it, put it out on Twitter, and they said that's Starlink. Anyways, it was to the west towards Edmonton.
It was probably a bunch of people letting crack pipes. Although, actually, I did see that meteor the other day. It was just a brief flash. I was driving to work early, not super early. I don't know, maybe like 6:30 in the morning, something like that. And the whole sky lit up green for like half a second. I'm like, that was a fucking meteor. And so that was kind of cool because that's the second meteor that I ever saw. The first one being one that just like lit the whole sky up for like 30 seconds. Are you going to try and find that? Should I tell the story about the day I had the time I saw that other meteor, or you got it?
So you can't see it right at the start, and then I think it comes into view once the camera auto focuses. It's pretty small. Of course, you can't see it on here. Can you see it too? You can't see it.
I can see. Well, I don't know. There's brief little flashes, maybe, or something. But actually, you know what? That brings up a good point. I think
can you see it right there, or you can't see it right there?
I can see it, but I don't know if that's some schmutz on my screen.
So there's two little things here. There's another one there. Then there's two more coming down here, and they all go up in a line, and then they all disappear.
Okay,
but that's right off from the front step of the house. And then if you go down, it looks like Starlink. It's Elon launching more Starlink satellites. This happens quite regularly. It's also spectacular when he calls them back. So anyways, it's Starlink
Okay.
satellite. So
So
that's what people were saying.
how cool would it be? You said this was coming out from towards Edmonton. I think the best thing we could do with Edmonton at this point in time is to turn the whole fucking place into a rocket pad.
Sure.
Okay. But I mean, so just finishing up why this is the mashup effect for those of you who missed the multiple weeks
Yes.
where Hughes was yelling into the void about why are we spending so much goddamn money running fiber optic into the middle of fucking nowhere for all of this internet when people know what they're getting into when they move to rural communities anyway. And why don't they just go to Starlink and pay $200? And then now it seems as though the world is listening. So Doug Ford.
David says, I've seen this link of Starlink satellites here in Maple Ridge, BC. And then Fred Fury says Starlink train. So there you go.
Okay.
That's
all right.
Once again, I'd never seen it before. I was just like, what is this?
I'd never seen it before either, but
it was pretty cool.
It's good. It's very cool. And I'm glad I was right.
We're going to go to happy news. Happy news. Happy news, folks. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right. First, you got, I'll pull this up. Here's Tony Hinchcliffe quoted, I apologize to absolutely nobody.
For the record, this was the comedian who told the Puerto Rican joke at Madison Square Gardens a few weeks ago.
Yes, he said, I apologize to absolutely nobody, not to the Puerto Ricans, not to the whites, not to the blacks, not to the Palestinians, not to the Jews, and not to my own mother, who I made fun of during the set. Nobody clipped that. No headlines about me making fun of my own mother. Then you have...
that's the way you apologize to the mob, to the cancel culture mob who says you need to prostrate yourself in front of us and show contrition for this evil thing that you did, which was telling a joke or being right or whatever it was. This is the only correct response, is to say, fuck you. I don't apologize at all.
If you missed it, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be the head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. So they're walking in and going to be slashing some jobs. That's pretty big, too. I'm very interested to see what happens with that.
Out of everything that happened with the U.S. election, this is by far my favorite part, is that we've got this Department of Government Efficiency. And then go ahead.
Well, it's an image. And it's a guy crying, going, so you're okay with thousands of government employees losing their jobs? Yes.
Yes.
Here's the next director of national intelligence.
Oh, there's Tulsi Gabbard again. Like, goddamn, what a woman. What a woman.
And then you got Tracy Wilson. Oh, this is community notes. Or is this happy
Okay,
news?
all right. Let's go back to this Department of Government Efficiency real quick.
Sure.
I just want to talk about all of these goofy things that, we focus on the Canadian stuff because that's what we see every day. But in the States, you get things like this. I'm not going to.
But the real progress starts once Trump's team starts getting its hands dirty. Elon Musk and Vivek are running the Department of Government Efficiency. They're calling it DOGE, and they'll have plenty to do. Starting with Thor. The Fed spent $500,000 on a study to see if selfies make you happy. $1 million went to study if Japanese quail were more frisky if you gave them cocaine. The Fed spent $20,000 on drag shows in Ecuador. $80,000 in Ghana asking taxi drivers if climate change makes it harder for them to drive. And $500,000 was spent so Fauci could create transgender monkeys.
They're turning the frogs gay.
There's 3 million federal employees, and a lot of them don't even do much more than collect a paycheck.
Doesn't that sound familiar? Like that was basically just a rapid fire mashup episode right there. And so, you look at it, like I was thinking, like, well, if you were to do this, because here's what I want to see. So a year ago, we had Argentina, where Milei came in and he's like, fired. He rips all those names off of the board, just gets rid of entire departments. You've got two of the smartest entrepreneurs on the planet who basically Elon for sure built his business up around doing things at an efficient level that nobody could even comprehend until he actually accomplished it. And you're sending him into government and saying, make it so it doesn't suck. And where does that go next? It's not going to happen to Canada because Poilievre's going to be too scared to step on the unionized toes of bureaucrats. But I just want to see how many other countries pick up on things like this, where they just get common sense business people in to say, what if we just stop being idiots with the money? So and that's the beautiful part of it.
So here's Chris Sims. Shout out to Chris Sims. We just got tagged in this by one of the listeners, and she goes, Elon Musk, can you beat this one? It's Trudeau government outsource old people sex stories for $12,000.
And that was in Germany. That wasn't even Canadian sex stories. That was German sex stories.
Oh my goodness.
So
yeah,
I mean,
Franco
it's all
Terrazzano,
like 17-syllable safe words and lots of leather and zippers.
Franco Terrazzano has a great thread on all the incompetence getting spent on in our government. Okay, yeah. Community notes, twos.
Yep.
All right, we got Tracy Wilson.
Wait, sorry. This was the important thing I wanted to point out. This is the beauty of it. I'm sorry, but this has to get said. Elon Musk. All actions of the Department of Government Efficiency will be posted online for maximum transparency. Anytime the public thinks we're cutting something important or not cutting something wasteful, just let us know. We will also have a leaderboard for most insanely dumb spending of your tax dollars. This will be both extremely tragic and extremely entertaining. This is the kind of transparency that we have been begging for in government for 133 episodes. This is the way forward for all democracies, legitimate and otherwise, in the world. This is the way things ought to be. This is the way.
So you're saying, can Daniel Smith hire Sean and Twos to be the leaders of Doge 2.0 in Alberta?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I would basically hire everybody. I would fire everybody but us. Like, all right, well, thanks for bringing me on.
This goes back to my value for value. Let's get, because what Elon's saying is, listen, tell us what you want and don't want, and we'll work off a leaderboard. And one of the things I'm positioning you at the very start. What do we love about this show? Is our audience engagement. We want them to be engaged with what we're doing. Literally, that's how I get that last post on Chris Sims, right? People are feeding it into our feeds. So you go, we want you to be a part of what we're doing. Elon Musk is doing that.
Yes. Okay. But I would be a horrible choice for that because I would fire everybody. I'd be like, okay, so nobody can
you wouldn't fire everybody. Stop it.
No. Okay. Alberta Health Services, right? Nobody can get in to see a doctor. Nobody can get into the emergency room. I'd be like, well, if we fire all of you, we're no further behind. So goodbye. All right. And then do we really need this many members of parliament? I'd say we need about 7. Okay. Because everything's very uniform. Everybody in Alberta or everybody in rural Alberta is thinking the same way. Everybody in Edmonton is thinking the same way. So I would sit down with Shane Getson and I would say, so Shane, what is it that you say you do here every day?
Okay, community notes.
There'd be nobody left.
Community notes, jackass. We're not getting hired for Doge, are we? Community notes. Well, we're going to start with here. Let's pull it up. Tracy Wilson says, looking for something meaningful to do this Christmas or maybe with the kids. Consider writing to a Canadian soldier. I've reposted this. I think this is a great idea. There's all the stuff. Just go on Twitter and look for it, folks. Like I said, I reposted it. I think that's.
Oh wait, I didn't. I bookmarked it because I was like, we need to talk about this on the Mashup, and I didn't like it and repost it. So
I think that's a beautiful idea. And then you've got Stettler Recreation Center, February 5th to 9th. That's Erskine Curling Club.
Yes. Okay. So that is
2025 Alberta Boston Pizza Cup presented by the Best Western.
Yeah. That's going to be a big event. And Erskine, which is just a really tiny town just outside of Stettler. We've talked about a few of their events, and this is going to be a big one. It's just cool how they made themselves like the premier curling destination in Alberta.
December 8th, Wainwright, Vermilion, Lloydminster, UCP AGM is going to be in Wainwright, 4 p.m. So for people in this area, something to keep tabs on. Twos, did I miss anything? I feel like
you did. Yeah, you did.
What did I
November
miss?
19th, 7 p.m. at Moose Hall in Ponoka, Alberta. Bonnie, you still watching? This is your tweet. APP Ponoka chapter will be showing Matt Walsh's latest work, Am I Racist? Fresh popcorn and beverages supplied by the chapter. $5 admission, or bring a non-perishable donation to the Ponoka Food Bank.
Okay. Well, folks, I'm probably missing something that I can't think of.
Well, Zane wants to know when the Mashup Bonspiel is too, and it kind of got lost with the AGM and all the election coverage.
All the election coverage. It's like,
yeah, you people. What do you people want from us?
What do you people want?
That's what that'd be a great value for value thing. If we just, I, it's probably too late to do it this winter. If we could, it would be awesome. But I really think there's a lot to be said for having a Mashup Bonspiel.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people interested in it. I've had a lot of people ask me about it.
I know. It's great. But we're two people Tooz is starting a business. He's working full time. I swear this week, I'm watching the clock because I'm like, I literally got to go officiate a funeral here. And I'm like, at times I don't have enough bandwidth to pull off all these things. So what we're going to ask of you, the audience, is we want to know your thoughts on value for value. If you want somebody to come on the podcast and explain it better, we can do that. We can work on getting some ideas. Actually, Vance is coming back on the podcast here in a couple of weeks. He's doing some interesting things, talking about some interesting things. So he's going to be coming back on. But regardless, the value for value thing is an interesting conversation we want to have with you because we want to get a new theme song. But we just don't want to go pick a willy-nilly song. We want to have multiple selections. We want to play them all. We want to have a month of new theme songs, and then we want you to decide. That's what we want. So we've got some interesting thoughts coming in that way. Had some people reach out talking about it, like, hey, heard you're looking for a new theme song. What would that entail? So we want to have help from all of you lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
You people.
Absolutely. What do you mean, you people?
Tooz, 133 in the books. Folks,
Hell
thanks for hopping in.
What a whirlwind, hey?
What a whirlwind. Folks, we'll catch up to you next week, 134. Till then.